What if I told you that the Voldemort you see in the movies is only half of the story? That the real, terrifying truth of his past, his family, his mother, and his very creation was so dark, so disturbing, and so tragic that the films didn't even dare to show it. We all know the monster, the he who must not be named, the pale, snake-like Dark Lord obsessed with power and immortality. The movies give us a terrifying villain, but the books give us a reason. They give us an origin story that is, in my opinion, one of the most horrifying and heartbreaking tragedies of the entire Harry Potter series. This is not a story of battles. It's a story of rot and filth, a story of desperation and of a loveless act that created a being incapable of love itself. My name is Gibby, and welcome back to Factor Fantasy, where we explore the hidden lore behind both Harry Potter and The Lord of the Rings. And in today's video, I'm going to uncover the full, dark, and twisted history of the Gaunt family. We are going to dive deep into the pensieve with Dumbledore to uncover the full story of Lord Voldemort's past that was left on the cutting room floor. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why this history was almost certainly considered too dark for the films. Of course, if you enjoy Harry Potter breakdowns like this one, be sure to like and share with a friend. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on to be ready every single Wednesday when I release new Harry Potter content. And now with that being said, let's get into the lore. So where does all this hidden history come from? Well, almost all of it comes from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And this is actually a huge part of the main plot of the entire book, which the movie, well, mostly skipped. You see, after Voldemort's return, Dumbledore realizes he has to prepare Harry for the final battle. So, throughout Harry's 6th year, he calls him to his office for a series of private lessons. But these lessons don't involve casting spells. Instead, Dumbledore uses his pensieve. The pensieve, as you'll remember, is a magical basin that allows a wizard to store and revisit their memories. But more than that, they can also store the memories of other people. And this is exactly what Dumbledore has been doing. For years, he has been on a quiet quest, painstakingly collecting every memory he can find relating to Tom Riddle's past. In the movie, we only see Professor Slughorn's memory. But in the books, Dumbledore gathers memories from ministry officials, from Tom's old teachers, and even from a house elf. Dumbledore's entire strategy is built on one idea. To know your enemy, he tells Harry. I have been showing you his history, his past, so that you may better understand him and be better prepared. So as you listen to this story, remember that what you are hearing is what Harry saw. We are joining him as he and Dumbledore dive headfirst into the pensieve, starting with a memory from a ministry official who made a fateful house call long before Tom Riddle was ever born. Before we even get to the wizards, we have to start with the Muggles. Our story begins in a small village called Little Hangleton, and in this village, there are two opposing houses. On one hill, there is a grand manor, the finest house for miles around. This is the Riddle House. It is owned by the Riddles, an aristocratic, wealthy, and universally hated Muggle family. They were snobs, they were rude, and they looked down on the rest of the village. And the most handsome, arrogant, and despised of them all was their son, Tom Riddle. And this isn't the Tom Riddle that we know from the Harry Potter series, but Voldemort's father. However, this story isn't about him, really. It's about the other side of the valley. Because hidden in a tangle of dark trees down a winding, overgrown lane is a hovel, a shack, a house so dilapidated and filthy that it barely deserves the name. And this is where our story truly begins. The very first memory Dumbledore shows Harry is from a Ministry of Magic official named Bob Ogden. And what Ogden finds in this shack is the rotting corpse of a once great magical dynasty. The house itself is a nightmare. The garden is overgrown with weeds, the walls are mossy and crumbling, and nailed to the front door in a grotesque welcome is a dead snake. This is the home of the Gaunts. And who are the Gaunts? Well, as Dumbledore explains, they are one of the very last pure-blood families left. But more than that, they are the direct, unbroken line of descendants from one of the founders of Hogwarts itself, Salazar Slytherin. This family, which should have been wizarding royalty, is now living in absolute squalor. They are the perfect, horrifying example of what centuries of inbreeding and an obsession with blood purity can lead to. It leads to poverty, to madness, and to violence. Inside this shack, Bob Ogden finds a scene of almost unimaginable filth. The single room is filled with grime, old food, and the sense of decay, and in this room he finds the last 3 members of the Gaunt family. So let's meet the family, starting with the patriarch, Marvolo Gaunt. This is a man defined by one thing: pride. Arrogant, violent, and completely obsessed with his ancestry. The book describes Marvolo as looking oddly monkey-like, with short, grizzled hair and bright, mad-looking dark eyes. When Ogden, the ministry official, tries to speak to him, Marvolo is immediately hostile. He scoffs at the ministry and instead boasts about his lineage, speaking in Parseltongue to a snake coiled on the floor. He shows Ogden the 2 things he values more than food, comfort, or even his own children: his heirlooms. Because to Marvolo, a wizard who values the purity of his blood and lineage above all else, his heirlooms are the only things he has to prove such claims. The first is a heavy black stoned ring which he wears on his hand. He claims that it's the Peveril crest, and in a way, he's right. As we know, this is no mere crest, this is the Resurrection Stone, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows set into the ring of the Peveril family, who are, in fact, ancestors of the Gaunts. The second heirloom is a magnificent, heavy gold locket stamped with a serpentine S. This, he boasts, is the locket of Salazar Slytherin himself. These 2 priceless, legendary artifacts are sitting in a house of filth, owned by a man who would rather starve than part with the symbols of his quote-unquote greatness. And in a twisted turn of events, Voldemort would later use these same artifacts in his own dark schemes. The second family member is the son, Morfin Gaunt. If Marvolo is arrogant, Morfin is feral. He's described as having thick, matted hair that covers his face, making it impossible to see his mouth. He has oddly shaped small dark eyes, and most importantly, he speaks almost exclusively in Parseltongue. He's simple-minded, just as violent as his father, and carries a bloody knife. Marvolo and Morfin are terrifying. They are the end result of a bloodline that has twisted itself into madness. And then there's Merope. And this right here is the heart of the entire tragedy. Merope Gaunt is the daughter. The books describe her as colorless, beaten down, and stringy-haired. She moves sluggishly, as if in a daze, and is utterly terrified of her father. Marvolo treats her with nothing but contempt. He screams at her, calling her a filthy squib, and blames her for her lack of magical ability. But here is the key, the part Dumbledore makes sure that Harry understands. Merope isn't a squib, she's a powerful witch. Her magic, however, has been completely suppressed by the terrible, fearful environment of her home. She is a prisoner, mistreated by her father and her brother. She is broken. So this is the scene that the ministry official, Bob Ogden, walks into. Marvolo, the proud father, Morfin, the violent son, and Merope, the broken daughter. And you might be wondering, how does Voldemort come out of all of this? Well, keep on watching until the end, and you'll see exactly why Voldemort turned out the way that he did. So now, going back to the Gaunt family house, let's resume with why Bob Ogden was there in the first place. We read in the book that Ogden was there to serve a summons. Morfin, it turns out, had attacked a local muggle the night before, and just as Ogden is trying to explain this, a sound is heard outside. It's the sound of horses and of a man and woman laughing. Through the grimy window, they can see him, Tom Riddle Sr., the handsome muggle from the manor, riding by with a young woman named Cecilia. And this is the moment that seals everyone's fate. As they watch Riddle and Cecilia ride by, they overhear the two discussing the Gaunt house. And after Riddle calls Cecilia darling, Morphin points out to his sister that Riddle wouldn't have her anyway, which is a key detail to this entire story. Because you see, in that moment, we see the one and only thing that Merope wants. She is gazing and longing for this handsome muggle who represents everything that she is not: clean, wealthy, happy, and above all, free. But after hearing this comment from Morphin directed towards Merope, Marvolo Gaunt explodes, realizing that his daughter wants a muggle. Marvolo lunges at Merope, screaming at her and calling her a filthy magicless squib and a blood traitor. He grows incredibly hostile, and the situation becomes so dangerous that Bob Ogden is forced to act. He casts a spell to stop Marvolo, which causes Morphin to leap at Ogden in a rage, sending the Ministry official running for his life. This, Dumbledore explains, was the end for the Gaunt men. Ogden returned with backup. Marvolo and Morphin, for attacking a Ministry official and for the prior attack on Tom Riddle, were arrested, tried, and sentenced to Azkaban. Marvolo got 6 months, but Morphin, for his repeated offenses and for fighting the officers, got 3 years. And just like that, Merope Gaunt was alone. For the first time in her entire life, Merope was free. Free from her father's rage, free from her brother's cruelty. And with that freedom, Dumbledore speculates her magic, suppressed for so long by that trauma, came roaring to the surface, and she used that magic to get the one thing she had ever wanted. She went and got Tom Riddle Sr. Now the books are clear. This was no love story. Tom Riddle, the arrogant muggle who despised the Gaunts, would never have willingly run away with Merope. Dumbledore's theory, which is almost certainly correct, is that Merope used a love potion, a powerful one. Day after day, she fed it to Tom Riddle, and under its influence, he became infatuated with her. They eloped, they married, all of it a complete lie, a magical enslavement. And this is one of the key reasons this story is so complex. The creation of Lord Voldemort is not just a story of a dark wizard. It's a story that begins with a magical deception. It's a horrifying, desperate, and selfish act, but one born of a lifetime of pain and torture. Merope, this broken woman, now had everything she ever dreamed of. She had her handsome husband, she was free from her family, and soon she was going to have a child. And this is where she made her fatal mistake. Dumbledore suggests that Merope, so deluded by her own fantasy, made a choice. She decided to stop giving Tom Riddle the potion. Why? Well, Dumbledore explains to Harry that perhaps Merope became too confident in her own power, and that maybe Tom Riddle would love her for herself by now. So Merope let the enchantment break, hoping his love was real. It was not. The moment that Tom Riddle Sr. woke up and realized what happened, he was horrified. He fled. He abandoned a pregnant Merope and returned to Little Hangleton, never once looking back, never once asking about the child that he had helped create. Merope was once again alone, but this time it was worse. She was destitute in a city she didn't know, London. She was pregnant, heartbroken, and utterly broken in spirit. It seems, Dumbledore says, that in her despair she either lost the will to use her magic or simply deserted her entirely. She wouldn't even use a simple charm to save her own life. She had one thing left of value, the heavy gold locket of Salazar Slytherin. A memory Dumbledore later shows Harry confirms its fate. Merope, heavily pregnant and desperate for money, stumbled into the dark magic shop, Borgin and Burke's. She sold the priceless ancient heirloom, one of the future Horcruxes, to Mr. Burke for a mere 10 galleons, just enough to survive a little while longer. Her time ran out on New Year's Eve. She stumbled to the steps of a Muggle orphanage, Wool's orphanage to be specific, and they took her in. She gave birth to a son, and with her last breaths, she gave him a name. She lived just long enough to tell the matron she wanted him to be called Tom, after his father, and Marvolo after hers, and his last name, of course, would be Riddle. And then Merope Gaunt died. And that is the true origin of Lord Voldemort. The movies give us a quick glimpse of a creepy, quiet boy in an orphanage, but the books give us this absolute gothic horror. Think about what this story tells us. Voldemort wasn't born evil, he was born empty. He was conceived from a lie, a loveless union powered by magical deception. His mother was a product of a terrible and broken home. His father was a cold-hearted muggle who abandoned him before he was even born. His very name was a curse, the name of the muggle father who hated him and the wizarding grandfather who would have hated him more for being a half-blood. He was left alone in a cold, sterile orphanage with no family, no history, and not a single drop of love in his creation. Dumbledore talks about Tom Riddle's behavior at the orphanage to Harry, saying that he was self-sufficient, secretive, and cruel. This is the key to everything. His hatred of muggles, like his father, his obsession with his noble Slytherin bloodline, like his grandfather, his desperate, all-consuming need for power and control, and above all, his terror of death, the one thing his mother, in her ultimate despair, embraced. This story isn't just dark, it's an almost unspeakably sad and complex tragedy. It's a story of a broken family, desperation, and abandonment. And when you lay it all out, it's not really a surprise, is it? It's pretty clear why this one part of the lore was deemed too dark for the movies. But what do you think? Had you ever heard the full tragic story of Merope Gaunt? And how does knowing this dark history change your perception of Lord Voldemort? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. As always, a massive thank you to Jason, Joshua, Timothy, Robo Steve, and all of my other incredible supporters who continue to make these videos possible each and every month. And I want to give an extra special shout out to our newest member, Kurt. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more hidden lore, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and come back every Wednesday as we dive back into the wizarding world. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode.